Good morning. I'm Bob Sanborn. I'm president and CEO of Children at Risk. We are a Texas-based statewide organization focusing on advocacy for children. We're here today with a group of experts to talk about immigration policy in the United States and its impact on Texas, its impact on our children. We have a great group of experts joining us today. Ann Chandler is here. She's the founder and executive director of the Texas Immigration Law Center. Also with her, Jessica Cisneros, who's the managing attorney over there at the Texas Immigration Law Center. Karina Chapa is with us. She's the executive director of the Texas Association of Bilingual Educators. Dylan Corbett is with us. He's the executive director of the Hope Border Institute. Jenifer Wolf-Williams, executive director of the Humanitarian Outreach for Migrant Emotional Health Home. Jenifer, thanks for being with us. Also joining us in a little bit will be Sister Norma Pimentel, who is with down in McAllen at Catholic Charities of the Rio Grande Valley. And then finally, Teresa Granillo, who is the CEO of AVANCE in San Antonio, will also join us. We have people, everyone here is from all over the state of Texas. And as I introduce them again, we'll be able to see exactly where they're from. But Texas is really impacted by this. And when we talk about children and immigration, we have to remember in Texas, 10%. In our country, 10% of all the children are in the state of Texas. And within that group of 10% of all of our American children, we have to understand that the majority of those children are Latino. But moreover, 30% of all of the children in the state of Texas are immigrants or children of immigrants. So even greater impact on those kids. And in cities like Houston and Dallas, what we're looking at is close to 50% of the children are children of immigrants or immigrants themselves. So immigration policy in America is Texas children policy in many ways. And it really has a lot of us concerned about what's going on with this immigration policy. I get, and I think we all get, that Americans, many Americans, are worried about immigration. I think many Americans are worried and pretty supportive of the idea that we need to do something about immigration policy. I think many Americans are worried and supportive of the idea that maybe we should deport those immigrants that maybe have committed criminal activities. But I think also most Americans really care about kids and don't want us to traumatize children. And they don't want us to be the villains in this. And this whole idea of family separation, this whole idea of children maybe being separated from their parents and being traumatized is not something that most Americans want. So as we talk about immigration policy, we want people to be concerned about children's policy as well. We want people to be concerned about what we're doing with our children, what we're doing with our families. Moreover, in Texas, we need to be worried about the economy because not only does this impact children and families, but it has an important impact on the economy. When I think about this process of immigration, I think Americans want this to be humane. And I think this needs to be sort of the underlying thing as we move forward, is this idea of humanity. And I have been a child advocate for over 2 decades here in the state of Texas, and never have I been so worried as I am right now in regards to the status of our children, in regards to what we're doing with our children. I have worked with the governor, I've worked with the lieutenant governor, and I've worked with the state legislature on many issues. And I'd like to think that we are trusted on those issues in regards to children. And so we are concerned that we're acting without thinking when it comes to children on this issue. So when we talk about these children, these are children at risk. When we talk about Latino children, children at risk. When we talk about immigrant children, these are children at risk. And frankly, as I mentioned before, this is Texas at risk as we talk about these immigration policies. It's important to note that children are uniquely vulnerable when it comes to some of this stuff. And when we talk about immigration policy, we see families that are skipping out on health, they're skipping out on educational help, they're skipping out on any benefits that might even help those children be successful. And so we want to make sure that as we move forward, we continue to think about these things. And all of us here are happy to help in regards to how we think through these things. And so it's not a knee jerk, let's deal with immigration, because this knee jerk has an impact on many things regarding our children, many things regarding our future, many things in regards to the state of Texas's future. I think that we can think about immigration and think about children and families at the same time. I think we could solve immigration's challenges and make sure that we're protecting children and families at the same time. And we're here to make sure that that can happen. I want to go next to the Texas Immigration Law Center. Jessica Cisneros out of Laredo is here to start us off. Jessica, I know that you'll be followed quickly by Anne, but en español, ¿nos puedes hablar un poco en español de lo que estamos hablando ahora?
Claro que sí, Bob. Y buenos días a todos. Mi nombre es Jessica Cisneros, soy la abogada gerente en Texas Immigration Law Council. Y de parte de nuestra organización en este momento queremos aprovechar para hablar directamente a las familias que tienen miedo de ser arrestadas, de ser detenidas o de ser deportadas. Es cierto que en las siguientes semanas y meses esperamos cambios en las leyes. Ya hemos visto cambios esta semana. Y es pues también es cierto, ¿verdad? Que pues puede incrementar la posibilidad de que personas que no sean ciudadanos americanos están en riesgo. Y al igual queremos animarlos a mantener la calma y enfocarnos en lo que sí podemos controlar, que es que nos podemos preparar y nos podemos educar. Hay un dicho en inglés que es knowledge is power, significa el conocimiento es poder. Y hay mucha información incorrecta en las redes y en nuestros círculos sociales en este momento porque las personas tienen miedo. Pero también es importante recordar que hay muchísima información que los puede ayudar. Así que tomando pasos ahora para obtener esa información confiable, usted se puede equipar, ¿verdad? Para aprender de cómo proteger su seguridad personal, cómo proteger a sus hijos, cómo proteger a sus finanzas, sus propiedades. Hay varias maneras de poder informarse. Entonces es importante buscar recursos y apoyo que estén disponibles en donde se encuentre usted. Aquí en esta conferencia de prensa pueden ver que hay varias organizaciones que están trabajando en el estado de Texas y es importante saber que no están solos, ¿verdad? Una de las cosas importantes que sí recomiendo como abogada es que usted participe en un taller de conozca sus derechos, y tener consultas con abogados o personas que tengan licencia, que sean de confiar, para que usted pueda saber cuáles son sus opciones en este momento y cuáles son los riesgos y para poder prepararse en caso de que esté en un momento o una situación riesgosa. Hay presentaciones de estos talleres que son disponibles virtualmente. Hay muchas ubicaciones, como les digo, hay varias organizaciones aquí y muchísimas más que no están representadas aquí el día de hoy, que están teniendo estos talleres en persona también. Entonces, busque, asesórese. Esa información es para empoderarlos a ustedes a hacer decisiones informadas para usted y para su familia. Una de las organizaciones nacionales o una coalición de organizaciones de inmigración es Ready to Stay. En inglés es Ready to Stay. Si los busca en Google o pone readytostay.org, tienen información en español, también en inglés y en otros idiomas. Y allí pueden encontrar esta información que estoy hablando sobre cómo prepararse y hacer un plan para usted, su familia y sus finanzas. Así que recuerden, la preparación es clave en este momento y creo que juntos podemos mantenernos unidos, podemos mantenernos informados y prepararnos para lo que venga. Así que recuerden, no tiene que, pues, enfrentar esta situación solo, no está solo, la ayuda está aquí y estamos aquí para ustedes. Muchísimas gracias.
Thank you, Jessica, for that information. So great for families. And from your perspective, give us an idea of your take on all of this in English.
Um, pues, sorry, now I'm like switching between
Oh,
English and Spanish. um, well, right now, my organization and I know many other organizations are trying to parse through all the information that was given to us. And that's why it's so important for folks to make sure that the information that they're getting is from a trusted resource because there is so much misinformation out there. Unfortunately, there's folks out there that want to take advantage of immigrants, right? And use this as an opportunity to do that. But instead, we're trying to tell folks, don't be scared. Instead, be alert. Make sure that you're seeking out those trusted resources. so that you can inform yourself and your family. We are trying to go through that information and, put out information about what this means for Texans, not just non-citizens, because this obviously affects all of us, right? And many folks have mixed status families. Many folks like myself, we live on the border. It has an impact. It's not just, undocumented immigrants that we're talking about here. It
Absolutely.
affects all of us as Texans. So we are hoping to put out that information very soon. But there are already so many explainers about what this could potentially mean. And I say potentially mean because I feel like these are directives, but we haven't received the instructions yet. We don't know what it means yet.
Yeah, I
So
know.
that's why we're telling people don't be scared, just be alert and figure out from where you can get that information once it's out.
I think that's a good point, Jessica, and that it's all brand new and we don't know what it means. We don't know how far people are going to go on some of this, but it doesn't mean we're not worried. Jessica Cisneros down in Laredo, thank you very much. Let's go to Austin and Chandler. Ann, from your perspective, what are you seeing? You're on mute, Ann. I'm sorry. I hate when this happens in a press conference, right? So there
As
you go.
Jessica, as Jessica described, there's a lot we can do right now. Preparation is key. And while these are directives and we don't know exactly what shape and form, we know there are ways to mitigate risk. We know there's ways that we can prepare for apprehensions and things that we're going to see that I think will intentionally look very big, very ugly, and very scary. And so it's our job, our impacted children, our families, this is all of us can support and grab that knowledge we need to be as resilient as possible. So we're here to support. Texas Immigration Law Council will have accurate information on our website, but for real actionable preparation tools that the community, please share with your loved ones in your community, ready at stay for that know your rights information. For individuals who are terrified about one day being arrested, detained, and deported, and what may happen to children that may be citizens or legal permanent residents, there are workshops everywhere in the community right now. Get yourself equipped, get the help of an attorney, and get paperwork in place. Because again, I think with preparation and resolve, we don't have to go into a panic mode. We can just do everything we can to protect one another.
Yeah, very good. Thank you, Ann. And thanks for the work that you and Jessica are doing around this. So thank you so very, very much. Let's talk a little bit about education and let's go down to the Valley. Karina Chapa is with us. She is with the Texas Association of Bilingual Educators. She's the executive director over there. ¿Nos puede hablar en inglés y español, Karina, de lo que está pasando?
Claro que sí, empezamos en español. Muy buenos días. Mi nombre es Karina Chapa y soy la directora ejecutiva de la Asociación de Educación Bilingüe de Texas. Hoy quisiera abordar las preocupaciones que muchas de nuestras familias pueden tener tras las órdenes ejecutivas recientes relacionadas con la inmigración. Como educadores y defensores de la educación bilingüe y multicultural, queremos dejar algo muy en claro. Las escuelas son y siempre serán lugares de seguridad, pertenencia y aprendizaje para todos los niños, sin importar su estatus migratorio. Primero que nada, las familias pueden estar seguras de que las escuelas públicas siguen comprometidas a servir todos los estudiantes. La ley es muy clara. Cada niño en este país, sin importar dónde haya nacido, tiene derecho a la educación. Por ley, las escuelas no pueden pedir información sobre el estatus migratorio de los estudiantes ni de sus familias. Las únicas pruebas que las escuelas pueden solicitar son pruebas de domicilio. En ese caso, una dirección local, pero no tienen el derecho de preguntar sobre el estatus legal de la familia. Esto significa que todas las familias pueden enviar a sus hijos a la escuela sabiendo que su información personal está protegida bajo la ley de FERPA, que es la Ley de Derechos Educativos y Privacidad Familiar hasta ahora, la cual protege la privacidad de los registros académicos de nuestros estudiantes. En Texas, como bien decían, más de 1.3 millones de estudiantes emergentes bilingües están inscritos en nuestros campuses y una gran parte de ellos provienen de familias inmigrantes como la mía. Estos estudiantes representan el futuro de nuestras comunidades y de nuestra fuerza laboral. Los estudios demuestran constantemente que cuando educamos adecuadamente a los niños inmigrantes, cuando apoyamos su desarrollo del lenguaje y su crecimiento académico, ellos sobresalen y contribuyen de manera extraordinaria a nuestra sociedad. Desde las aulas que llenan hoy hasta los empleos y las innovaciones que liderarán mañana, su éxito está directamente vinculado al bienestar de nuestras comunidades y de nuestra nación, de todo el país. Así que a cada estudiante que me está escuchando, queremos que sepan que ustedes pertenecen aquí. Nuestras escuelas no son solo un edificio. Es una comunidad, son comunidades. Sus maestros, consejeros, administradores y el personal escolar están aquí para apoyarlos, escuchar sus inquietudes y estar a su lado. Como decían anteriormente, no están solos. Para nuestras familias inmigrantes, quiero enfatizar esto. Ustedes tienen todo un equipo de apoyo en la escuela, profundamente comprometido con el éxito de sus hijos, desde sus maestros bilingües y de inglés como segundo idioma que entienden el camino que están siguiendo, hasta consejeros escolares capacitados para brindar apoyo socioemocional. Existe toda una red de profesionales dedicados a abogar por sus hijos en cada paso de este camino. Así que nuestra asociación sigue firme en nuestra misión de garantizar una educación bilingüe, biletrada y muy multicultural efectiva para todos los estudiantes. Instamos a las familias a mantenerse informadas, como ya se mencionó anteriormente. Manténganse conectadas y busquen recursos y orientación en sus escuelas. Continuaremos abogando por políticas que protejan sus derechos y la dignidad de cada uno de sus hijos en nuestras aulas. Así que juntos podemos garantizar que cada niño, sin importar de dónde venga, tenga las herramientas, el conocimiento y el apoyo que necesita para triunfar. Muchísimas gracias por este tiempo. Should I do it now in English?
Yeah, I have to say, Karina, that no one's getting the pressure. Never going to call Ann and I again. You're too good. So so please give us just a synopsis in English would be fantastic. Thank you.
Of course. So my name is Karina Chapa. I'm the Executive Director of the Texas Association for Bilingual Education. And today I would like to address some concerns that our immigrant families might have in relationship to all these new immigration policies that are being signed. So we want to ensure you that as educators, we're also your advocates for bilingual and multicultural education. And we want to be clear, schools are and always will be places of safety, belonging, and learning for all children, regardless of immigration status. In fact, there's several laws that protect your privacy, like FERPA, which is the Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act. It means that school districts and school systems are prohibited from sharing any information to outside entities as of today. And information that you share with them doesn't have to be related to your immigration status whatsoever. All they can ask is for proof of residence, not residency. So proof of residence means where do you live, just to make sure that you live within the neighborhood of a certain school, a certain district, but no one should ever ask you for your immigration status in our school systems. All right, so here in Texas, we have more than 1.3 million bilingual children, and many of them come from immigrant families like my own, right? And we know that as immigrants, we contribute to the development and growth of our society, our community, and our nation as a whole. We know that supporting our students linguistically and cognitively, academically, socially, will have a positive impact in our whole community. So if I have any student listening to us today, we want you to know that you belong. You belong with us. Our schools are not just buildings, they're communities of care. We care for you. Teachers, counselors, administrators, and staff are here to support you, to listen to your concerns, and to stand by you. You're not alone. We are not alone in this. For our families, I want to emphasize, you have also a team of supporters in schools. You have your bilingual and ESL teachers who understand your journey. You have your counselors who can provide that social, emotional support. There is a whole network of professionals. Some of us are here today who will continue advocating 24/7 for you and to keep your rights. So TABE continues in this mission, right, to advocate for our families who are bilingual and for all children to have access to quality bilingual education. We will continue advocating for policies that protect the rights of every child. We know, we are convinced that together we can ensure that every child in Texas, no matter where they come from, has the tools, knowledge, and support they need to succeed. Thank
Very
you
good.
so much.
Karina Chapa is with the Texas Association of Bilingual Educators. She's the executive director over there down in the Valley. And your point, Karina, and Ann, I'd love for you to unmute yourself. And I want to ask you a quick question on this, because Karina's point about the law being on the side of students as we speak today, and frankly, pretty strongly in regards to the access to schools. I mean, Supreme Court decision saying immigrant children have access to schools, whether they're documented or not. That's an important consideration, isn't it, Ann?
It's an absolutely important consideration. And I do want to speak to one of the new policies was announced, and that was the removal of what we think of as secured communities and zones. So for quite a while, we have had measures in place that prohibit any officers from the Department of Homeland Security from entering places like churches, schools, and doing any type of enforcement activity. In a very loud way, we heard the administration to remove that policy. What does that mean? It does not mean that we should not send our children to school. It does not mean that tomorrow we are going to see ICE officers in our schools making arrests. It does not mean any of that. It just means that that is no longer a no-go zone, right? And so it's really important. There are ways that we can decrease the possibility of getting ourselves entangled with law enforcement in a way that's going to harm our beautiful children in this state. But but deciding to not send our children to school is not one of those, right? School
That's
is a
exactly
home
right.
of power, of community, of resolve. You're absolutely right. Moreover, we're going to hear a lot in the Texas legislative debate this year about removing free access to K through 12 education for children who may lack particular immigration status or undocumented. That is not the law. Right now, every child, regardless of their status, has that right to have their confidentiality, their immigration status private, and to attend our schools.
Yeah, it's important to note a lot of these things are scare tactics, and we need to stand up and let people know what the realities are. Thank you, Ann, so much. So let's go to Dylan Corbett. Dylan Corbett is out in El Paso at the Hope Border Institute. He's the executive out there, executive director. Dylan, give us your take on some of this en inglés, en español, si puedes.
Yeah, thanks, Bob. Good morning, everyone. Good morning to all the colleagues on the call. And thanks to Children at Risk for all the critical work that you're doing to protect our Texas families at this difficult moment. I am the director of Hope, the Hope Border Institute. We're a faith-based community organization in El Paso, Texas, and we do research and advocacy on border issues. We also have a humanitarian program for migrants arriving to the U.S. Mexico border. Let me start by saying that the executive orders and all the different actions that we've seen this week, including plans to deploy potentially thousands of Pentagon assets to the border, actions to end birthright citizenship, as Ann mentioned, the reversal of the sensitive locations policy, and really the virtual shutting down of the border to asylum seekers this week. They're all a frontal attack on Texas communities like El Paso. Our community here in El Paso, we are a quarter foreign born. We're over 80% Mexican American. Immigration is in our bones. It's what has made us beautiful, resilient, safe, a vibrant community. We've also seen the fallout of a broken immigration system, and we've seen the unprecedented arrivals of vulnerable migrants and asylum seekers to our border community over the recent years. But we've managed to pull together civil society, elected leaders, working with border enforcement, working with immigration enforcement and law enforcement, faith communities. We've worked together to pick up the broken pieces, and we've shown that we can manage migration with dignity and compassion. It is possible. But the administration's actions this week put all that at risk. They demolished the modicum of a system that was in place to manage the border smartly. And in a particular way here in Texas, we know that the deployment of the military, who have no training in asylum law or in community safety, that puts our local communities at risk too. Right now, only days into the new administration, the border is effectively sealed to the vulnerable. And this is really unprecedented. I don't remember seeing this level of a border completely closed to asylum seekers, even during the first Trump administration. We know it's illegal, but more importantly, it's immoral. It's unsustainable, and it threatens to throw our border communities into chaos and to undo all the work that we've done to manage migration at the border with dignity. I also want to speak to the sensitive locations policy. This is something that really strikes at the heart of our community and our El Paso families. So as you've heard this week, the administration reversed that sensitive locations policy. And that's a policy that we've had for years under both Republican and Democratic administrations. And it's restrained immigration enforcement actions when there's no immediate threat in places like schools, community service providers, hospitals, and churches. And this really is the first chess piece in a campaign of deportations, and it is frightening. It strikes at the trust that's essential to a safe and a functioning community. You can't have a community without trust. It's not an attack on schools. It's not an attack on hospitals. It's not an attack on churches. It's an attack on parents and children. It's an attack on families who are sick. It's an attack on people who go to church, temple, and mosque. And it introduces an unnecessary level of fear and anxiety and trauma for all our families. Many of our El Paso families are mixed families. That is, families where one or more of the members are undocumented. Here in El Paso, 1 out of 3 undocumented persons live with a U.S. citizen child. 70% of our undocumented community here in El Paso has been here for more than 10 years, and many of them more than 20 years. In 2019, we know they contributed more than $70 million in taxes, and they're contributing members of our economy. They're full-fledged members of our local community. All these actions that we've seen, the EOs and the policy changes, they strike at the core of our identity as a welcoming community in El Paso. They strike at the core of our identity as a community that values family. We need reform. We do, but none of these actions will fix our system. They won't maintain our commitment to refugees and asylum seekers. They won't protect our economy. They won't keep our local communities safe. They won't help our border communities. They won't help our state. They won't help our country. Here in Texas, as you know, many families already live in a precarious situation. Parents work tirelessly to provide for their children, and now they do it while carrying a heavy burden of uncertainty. It's not just an immigration issue. This is a human issue. It affects moms and dads and children and the elderly. It touches at the very heart of our community. It challenges us right now in this moment to live up to our border community's values of compassion and solidarity. And these are also the values of our state and country. Thanks again for the invitation to be with you all today. Happy to answer questions later. I can say some words in Spanish if you like as well.
Algunas palabras solamente, not the whole thing.
Yeah, buenos días. Estoy muy agradecido con la oportunidad de estar con ustedes todos hoy. Yo creo que es importante decir que El Paso es una comunidad de migrantes. Más de 25% de nuestra población es del extranjero. Somos más de 80% mexicano-americano. La inmigración es parte de nuestro ADN. Es lo que hace nuestra comunidad fuerte, resiliente, vibrante y bella. Nosotros sí sabemos muy bien que el sistema está roto, está quebrado, necesitamos reformas, pero lo que estamos viendo esta semana con las órdenes ejecutivas y las acciones del nuevo gobierno no van a funcionar nada. No son soluciones, más bien amenazan lo que está al centro de nuestra comunidad, el valor de la confianza, deteriora la confianza. y la confianza es necesaria para que funcione una comunidad. Necesitamos reformas y necesitamos reformas ya, pero estas políticas de mandar soldados a la frontera para cerrar la frontera, de decir que los agentes que aplican las leyes migratorias ahora pueden entrar en las escuelas y los hospitales y las iglesias, eso simplemente introduce miedo y ansiedad en la comunidad y necesitamos políticas que reflejen los valores de nuestra comunidad, la hospitalidad, la solidaridad, la compasión, y que reflejen también las contribuciones que todas las familias migrantes en El Paso y en todo el estado hacen todos los días para que prospere nuestro estado. Pero sí, todo lo que hemos visto esta semana no sirve en nada a eso, simplemente introduce miedo, ansiedad y amenaza en la comunidad.
Thank you, Dylan, very, very much. Thank you for all the work that you're doing out there in El Paso at the Hope Border Institute. Jenifer Williams is with us. She's Executive Director of Humanitarian Outreach for Migrant Emotional Health Home. She's up in Dallas, but they are all over the state. Jenifer, give us your take.
Oh, good morning, everyone. Buenos días. I'll say a bit in English and then switch to Spanish. Diré un poco en inglés y luego en español. First, I want to say to those of you who care for and protect children, thank you for being alert to the fears and sadness children are carrying right now. Thank you for being there for them. Tragically, children who are immigrants themselves, members of mixed status families, or members of immigrant communities all face severe distress. They are at risk of detention, removal, or loss of their families. They understand at some level that they could be harmed just for being who they are. The situation rises to the level of trauma. And research about childhood trauma is clear. It can cause long-term psychological harm, and it can leave children vulnerable to severe medical conditions. But research also shows that the presence of a trusted adult can reduce those harms and help children build resilience. So I'm grateful for you who are caretakers and would like to offer a few basic principles to help you support children in the current cruelties. To begin, reassure children truthfully. Let them know there are many people who care about them and will look out for their well-being. Listen when they want to talk. Take their concerns seriously and let them know you want to hear what they're thinking. Answer their questions at their level of understanding. Short answers are best, but invite them to ask more if they want to. Be supportive. Let them know their feelings are normal and other people feel the same way. Help them follow their normal routines as much as possible. In uncertain times, routines are reassuring and comforting. Create a plan. Discuss what you and your child will do in an emergency and how you will find the help you need. Finally, care for yourself as well. Adults need to practice good self-care for our own well-being and as a model to our children. Y ahora en español. Primero quiero decirles a ustedes que cuiden y protegen a los niños. Gracias por estar alerta a los temores y la tristeza que los niños están cargando en este momento. Gracias por estar presentes con ellos. Trágicamente, los niños que son inmigrantes o que son miembros de familias de estatus mixto o miembros de comunidades con inmigrantes enfrentan una grave angustia. Ellos corren el riesgo de ser detenidos, expulsados o perder a sus familias. Entienden en algún nivel que podrían ser perjudicados solo por ser quienes son. Esta situación ya llega al nivel de trauma. La ciencia es clara. El trauma de este tipo puede causar daño psicológico a largo plazo y también puede dejar a los niños vulnerables a problemas graves físicos. Pero la ciencia también muestra que la presencia de un adulto de confianza puede reducir esos daños y ayudar a los niños a tener resistencia. Así que estoy agradecido por ustedes quienes cuidan a los niños atrapados en estas situaciones riesgosas y quisiera ofrecerles algunos principios básicos. Para empezar, calme a los niños con sinceridad. Hazles saber que hay muchas personas quienes se preocupan por ellos y velarán por su bienestar. Escúchalos cuando quieran hablar. Tome en serio sus preocupaciones y hágale saber que quiere escuchar lo que piensan. Responda a sus preguntas a su nivel de comprensión. Las respuestas cortas son las mejores, pero invítelos a hacer más preguntas si lo desean. Sé solidario. Hágales saber que sus sentimientos son normales y que otras personas sienten lo mismo. Ayúdelos a seguir sus rutinas normales tanto como sea posible. En tiempos de incertidumbre, las rutinas son tranquilizadoras y reconfortantes. Cree un plan. Discute lo que usted y su hijo harán en una emergencia y cómo encontrarán la ayuda que necesitan. Por último, cuídese a sí mismo también. Los adultos debemos cuidar a nuestro propio bienestar y así ser modelos para nuestros hijos.
Thank you very much, Jenifer. Muchísimas gracias por all the work that you guys are doing as well in this troubling time. Let's go to San Antonio. Teresa Granillo is here. She's the CEO of AVANCE, a great organization. Nice to see you, Teresa. And give us your take on this. I mean, I know you guys do a lot of work in early education, affected by, you're seeing this affecting a lot of parents, a lot of worries. Give us your take, Teresa.
Yeah, well, thank you, first of all, Dr. Sanborn and Children at Risk for putting this together and inviting AVANCE to be here with you all today. AVANCE's mission is to walk alongside children and caregivers in primarily Latino communities to achieve social and economic justice. We've been doing this for 50 years. We've been providing early childhood education and parenting support and education to families all across Texas. We have been a beacon of hope and support for the Latino community for decades, and we will continue to be that. Today, our doors remain open. We will continue to serve children and caregivers in the community, regardless of their status in this country, because their status is not what's important to us. What's important to us is that we believe that all children deserve the right to high quality early education, and all parents deserve the right to be the best parents that they can be. We will continue to pursue our mission and provide services to our community today, tomorrow, and into the foreseeable future. La misión de AVANCE es caminar junto a niños y cuidadores en comunidades principalmente latinos para lograr justicia social y económica. Durante 50 años, hemos brindido educación de la primera infancia y apoyo para la educación a padres de familias en todo el estado de Texas. Hemos sido una fuente de esperanza y apoyo para la comunidad latina durante décadas y seguiremos siéndolo. Hoy nuestras puertas permanecen abiertas. Continuaremos sirviendo a los niños y cuidadores en la comunidad independiente de su estatus en este país. Creemos que todos los niños merecen el derecho a una educación temprana y de alta cualidad. Y todos los padres merecen el derecho a ser los mejores padres posibles. Continuaremos cumpliendo con nuestra misión y brindando servicios a nuestra comunidad hoy, mañana y en el futuro previsible.
Teresa, muchísimas gracias. I want to thank everyone here for the great work that they're doing. I want to encourage the media to also follow up with interviews with any of us and to get the reality of what's going on with our families and with our children. I just think, Dylan, I think you brought up birthright citizenship and the fact that it keeps getting repeated that we're the only country that does it, when indeed, in all of the Western Hemisphere, Colombia is the only large country that doesn't do birthright. Everyone does birthright citizenship in our hemisphere. Canada, Mexico, Chile, Argentina, Brazil. So I think it's important that the media sort of understand that there are experts that are happy to help. And I think by and large, they do understand that. I think it's important that all of us are here to say, as we move forward with a lot of immigration reform, we want to make sure that children are prioritized. The well-being of children is prioritized. The well-being of families is prioritized. And that it is the humane thing to do. It's the Texas thing to do, to make sure that we're doing right by our children and families. And so thank you all. Thank you, Anne and Jessica from Texas Immigration Law Council. Thank you, Karina, from the work that you're doing. Teresa, Jenifer, thank you guys both very much. Dylan, thank you so much for the work that you're doing there in El Paso. We look forward to the press getting back to us with more questions. Thank you all very, very much.
Thank you, Bob.
All right, guys.